Hello guys, welcome to a new video here in JS Education. My name is Carlos Santana and this is the video number 12 for the course developing a headless CMS with TypeScript and GraphQL. So let's start. So the first thing we need to do, as always, is to update our packages using ncu-u. And remember that you should use the versions you are seeing on my terminal, otherwise you could have problems. So make sure you are copy those versions and then just run npm install. After that, you need to go to backend, and then we are going to go to GraphQL resolvers and then Userdata. And in here, we need to import a new method from a new library that we will create, JWT, a little bit later. Then we need from out, we need to import the get user by. We are going to make some changes here in our get users response. Right now we are just returning the final without anything, but we need to return it with including the apps. So we need to do models.user.final include, and then we are going to make the relationship with the apps for the apps that the user created. Later, we need to create a new method called getUserData. I can paste it here. After this, it's a new query, getUserData. Basically, we receive the access token, and then with the method getUserData, we are going to get the connected user if they have the session. If it is connected, then we are going to get the user using the method getUserBy, and we are getting the user by ID, email, privilege, and active. Basically, the second parameter is the models. If we get the user, basically we return the connected users. Otherwise, we are going to return an empty user. And this _debug is to know if we already have a casa cookie. So the thing is that because we are working on development, we are able to remove everything from our database if we want. So the problem is that if we already have a session and then we remove the user from the database, cleaning up the database or forcing to clean all the tables, and we create a new user, theoretically, even if we create the same user with the same password, the session is not valid because should be a new one, right? So in this case, this is going to help us to track that part. And later we are going to validate if we had the cookie but it's not valid. Then we are going to redirect to the login again and remove the current session. Then we need to go to types and then open scalar.graphql, and we are going to add the JSON scalar type that we are going to use in this resolver. This one is a JSON. Then open the types user, where we are going to add the apps and the _debug, which is a JSON type. And we need to add a new query, getUserData, that receives the access token as a string and returns a user. And then later on, we need to go to leave, and then we are going to create a new file called jwt.ts, which is going to have the methods to validate the session of the user or the token. So basically, we need to import JWT from JSON Web Token, we get base64 from fogg-utils, and then we need to import the security from our configuration. From the security, we need to retrieve the secret key. So the method JWT verify is going to receive an access token and a callback. with jwt.verify passing the access token, the secret key, we are going to get an callback with an error or the access token data. If we got the access token data, we are going to retrieve data that we are going to convert to user. If we have an error or we don't have the user, we return the callback with false. But otherwise, if we got data, which is gonna be like in a base 64, we use this get base 64 to get the actual data, right? And then we return the callback with that user data. And then this get user data function, if you see this as synchronous, receives an access token and is going to return a promise. So this user promise is going to resolve this method jwt verify that we have right here, and it's going to pass the access token and the callback with the user, and it's going to resolve the promise with the information of the user. So basically here we just get it and we return the user we have. Okay, after this we need to go to front end and open the next.config, and we are going to add 2 new alias. The first one is gonna be after leave. It's gonna be models. And the second one, we are going to do that in the next video. I don't want to merge stuff that we are not going to see in reality. Okay, so the next thing to do is going to source app dashboard components, and inside components we are going to create a new folder called models for our models, and then inside we need to create a file called create_app_model.tsx. So this model is going to be for create a new application in our CMS, right? So basically, let me try to explain this code. Okay, so basically here, sorry, we are using use context, use state, use effect, and memo from React. All these components from fogg-ui, primary button, link button, model. Some methods from fogg-utils, generate Xcode, invert Xcode, redirect to, Slack function, get empty values, and wait for. We are going to use mutation from Apollo client to execute the mutation. We need to import the form context and the user context. We are going to import also the mutation, create app mutation, that we will create a little bit later. The styles are gonna be from model.scss. This is gonna be like a generic style for all the models we are going to use in the project. This is the first one, but later we will create more. The interface for the props is gonna be this is open label options and on close function. So this create app model is going to retrieve or get those props. And then we have the state. This is for the form of values and set values. And we are going to have app name identifier. This icon is gonna be a color. So the function generate Xcode is going to automatically generate an hexadecimal code for color. Description is empty, user ID is empty. So the fields that are required in our form are app name and identifier. So we need to initialize this state with false. Then we have a loading state. When we click the button, we are going to do like a login effect on the button, and it's going to say creating the application. The mutation, we create or we extract the function for the mutation, create a mutation using the method useMutation and passing the mutation we want to get it. From the context, we are going to retrieve the user that I'm going to pass it a little bit later on this video. From the form context, we need the onChange and the setValue method. In the handle submit, these empty values or get empty values function, we are passing all the state, which is going to have all these fields. And we are saying like, oh, we need to validate the app name and the identifier because those are required, right? So this function is going to return like an object. If, for example, if the app name is empty, it's going to return an object like this: app name true and identifier true if they are empty, or false if they are not empty or they have values, right? And then we are validating here. And if they don't have any empty value, then it's going to return false directly. That's why here we say if we get empty values, then we use set require and we set like the values, empty values with this one with true. And we are going to print like a red border and with red font there, or that those fields are required. If everything is complete, then we need to set the loading on true to start spinning the button. And this wait for 2 seconds is a function that internally is executing a set timeout, but like in a promise way. So we do like wait for 2 seconds, then being asynchronous, we remove the set loading to false to stop the button to spinning, and then we execute the create app mutation. We get the data, create app, and we are passing the variables from our values. If we get the data, meaning that our application was created successfully or correctly, we are going to redirect to a dashboard / the ID of the application that we just create / master. For now, it's not going to work. Like, it's going to redirect, but we don't have a page that supports this link yet. So we are going to get a 404, but at least we will know if we create the application correctly or not. The handle icon color method is going to have the set value and then icon, and it's going to execute or get the value with generate Xcode and the set values. So basically this set value, the third parameter is a set state basically. So that's why we pass here the reference from our set values, that is the method to update this state here, the values state. The underscore on change is like overriding the function on change. But basically here, because we have an identifier, so identifier basically is the name of the app, but with slug. Like if, for example, your application is named like blog with capital letter, the identifier is gonna be blog, for example. Or if it's, I don't know, whatever, my blog, whatever you want to call it, then the identifier for this is gonna be my-blog. So like with slug. So when we write something on the app name, we are going to update automatically the identifier with slug function, passing that value. And for the other fields, we're going to just directly pass in the event and the set values method. Here we have our use effect. This console here just to validate. In this one, once we receive the user, we need to set the user ID towards our values. If you see here, we have the user ID in our values as empty, but we need the actual user ID to know like which user is creating this application. Finally, we are going to render a model. This model is a component in fogg-ui. It's receiving all these props. And inside the children is going to be the HTML you want to render in your model. And then this is the form app name. If is a required app name, then we're going to show a badge on red saying required. We have the input here. This prop has error is to render on red if has an error, a required error. The onChange is gonna call the underscore onChange, and the value is gonna be values.appName. We call the same for the identifier. Then for the icon color in here, basically is going to be the same, but this is gonna be a read only because the user won't be able to change that like manually, but they will be able to change the color by clicking this icon that is like a sync icon there. So in the on click, we are going to execute the handle icon color, and we are going to show that color with the style. And also we need the inverted Xcode. So invert Xcode is going to receive an Xcode. For example, it's going to receive black, like 000. What is the invert color of that? So it's white. So you is going to return FFF. Of you pass FFF as return 000 or whatever, any color. Is the invert for any color. So why? Because as you know, like I have like a white color on the font, but probably your background is like yellow or like almost white, and it's going to be losing the color of the font on that part. So that's why we need the inverted code. The description is optional, so you can write it here. And then we are going to have two buttons, cancel and a primary button to create application. The on click is going to execute the handle submit, is loading, is having the state loading, and the loading text is creating app. So basically when we click the first time before the 2 seconds, we are going to spin the button saying creating app, and then we are going to execute that. And that's it for this. Then we need to create the styles. You need to create model.scss with these styles here. Basically model, there's some p styles. As I said, like these are like standard styles for all the models we are going to use. So yeah. Okay, so now we need to go to my apps, app, dashboard components, my apps, and then go to cards and then index. So in here, we need to add use state. Also, we need to import the component create app model that we just create. We need a state to control the model opening. So we need to do like this, is open and set is open. And we need to do a method to update that part. So handle model, sorry, and then it's going to execute set is open and like as a toggle, like true and false. So then we just need to render that here before section. Like this, create app model, we pass a label, create new app, is open, we pass the state, on close, handle model, and then we have some options. We have a position, if we want to show the model on the center or top or bottom, and the width, we can specify the width and the height for the model. For now, we are going to use 400 on the width only, and then on line 51 on this class name card, we are going to add the on-click handle model to open it on the plus icon. Later, you need to go to context users, and here we are going to add some code. The first thing we need to do is from React, we need the use state and use effect. Then from fogg-utils, we need to import redirect2 and get debug. And from Apollo client, we need to use useQuery. Then we need to import here a query, get user data that we will create later. The interface is going to have a user. So we just pass here user with null just to match the interface. In here now we need the cookies, right? So now we pass here cookies, and we need a state to save the user. User set user, and we need to execute a query. The query get user data, and the variables is going to pass the access token from the cookies. If it doesn't exist, then it's going to pass an empty value and it's going to return null. But if the cookie or session is active and is valid, it's going to return the data user. So here we are going to use a use effect block to see if we get the data user. If we get it, we are going to receive with get debug, which basically use the underscore debug prop that I showed you at the beginning almost. And if we don't have an ID of the user and the debug that has cookie is true, this is a case where we have a user session, then we remove from the database the user, and then we refresh. Basically, that's not a valid user, right? Because it doesn't exist on the database. So we want to avoid like ghost users. But if they have a user ID, basically we're going to set that user in our state with data user.get user data. Basically on the context, we just pass the user, and that's it. So that in that way we can send the user on our context. Okay, so now our GraphQL apps, we need to create the mutation for create app. Create app.mutation.ts. So basically we're going to receive the app name, identifier, icon, description, and user ID. And we're going to pass those variables to the input. And we are going to receive ID of the application created, app name, identifier, icon, description, and the user ID. We need to create also a query for get user data.query.ts. This one is going to retrieve the user of the data. So basically we do get user data, we pass the access token, we execute that query, and we retrieve the ID, email, username, privilege, active, and underscore debug. Also, we need to make some changes into styles bars. I add 3 new colors, which are these ones. And finally, we need to go to our TS config, and we are going to add the models page. I just installed Prettier on my Visual Studio Code, so probably it's going to change. So if I save this file, it's going to apply the changes on Prettier. So the new path I need to add is this one, models, add models. Why I'm doing this before app? Because if you see, models is on app/dashboard/components/models. If I put it after app, then it's not going to match, because app/whatever is going to match dashboard, components, whatever. So you need to be careful on these ones. So that's pretty much all. So let's test our application. Let me see the backend, if we are cleaning up the data or not. Okay, so I'm going to, this is what I'm telling you, like I'm going to force to clean out my database. And then if I go to /dashboard, sorry, I need to go to 5000 first to create my new user. I think I got an error somewhere, or maybe not. Okay, so I'm going to create a new user, Santani, whatever, the same user. Okay, now I'm going to log in with these credentials. Oops. Okay, so now if we don't have any application because we remove everything, but we can create a new one. This is gonna be the model. If you see, right in the right in the center, we have these fields: app name, identifier, icon color. This is the icon I told you, like when you click, you change the color, whatever you want. So for example, here, I'm going to create my blog application. You see like how what I'm changing, the identifier is also changing. And for example, if I put everything on camel case, it's converting this to slug. Okay, so it's gonna be blog. Then you choose the color. Say this one. And then you say, oh, my first blog, whatever. It's optional, this one. So before this, if we don't put anything and we try to create an application, because these two fields are required, so that's why we are showing this error, required. So that's why you need to put something here. Then once you create, when I click this button, watch the spinner here. Creating app, after 2 seconds, is going to create the application, and then is going to redirect me. Right now, if you see here, it's redirecting me to dashboard / the ID of this new application /master. But because we don't have still the dashboard layout or the dashboard support, so we are not going to show this part yet. That's gonna be in the next video. But as you can see, my new application is right here. So I can create a new one, say forums, for example. Then we choose another color, creating app. You see that the ID just changed for the ID of that specific application, and it's here. So later, when we click like one of these applications, we are going to redirect to that part of the application. But for now, it's just the created app. The other thing that I mentioned you is like, for example, right now I'm connected. And right now I have a valid, let me show you. I have a valid session. So this one is this AT. This is my current session or my current cookie with this value, right? But what happened if, for example, I force again to remove all the data? That includes my user. If I remove all the data, before, if I refresh the page, I will be able still connect it because I have a session, right? But that's not a valid scenario, like if the user doesn't exist on the database, even if you have a valid session, then should not be a valid session. So if I refresh, I remember that I remove my user. So if you go here or get users, right now it's empty. Even if I create a new one, the same user, look, this ID is 5B77. I created again, but now the ID is 87. It's the same user with the same email, with the same password or whatever, but has a different ID. So it's different user. If I refresh, what's going to happen? It's going to take me to logout page, which is not ready yet, but it's gonna be in next video. So the idea is like, if the user is invalid because we removed the data, we are going to force the logout of the user and then redirect to the dashboard. But this part, I'm going to work on that on next video because I don't want to make this video too long. So what do you think on this? Do you like it? So that's it for the video. I don't want to like extend it anymore. If you like the video, please share with your friends, subscribe to this new channel. If you have any question, remember that you can join our Slack community. The link is on the description, and I'm helping a lot of people there with their projects and with the questions that they have on this project. So that's it. Thank you for your time and see you in the next video.